Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Anant. I mean, you have to understand, without his vision and his idea of edX, we would not be here today talking about this. He really led this revolution, and I just want to give another round of applause for Anant. It's always inspiring to hear him talk. Thank you. So again, welcome. Welcome to UC3M and welcome to Madrid. I know some of you are here for EMOOC, some of you are here for the Open edX conference, and some of you are here for both. Can I see a show of hands? Who's here for, who attended EMOOCs? Awesome. Did you have a good time? Yeah? It was amazing, right? So I heard so many great conversations happening about that conference, and so much great feedback and connections that were being made. And hopefully we can continue those conversations here. How many people are here at an Open edX conference for the first time? Oh my. Wow. Well, welcome. Thank you. That's really incredible, and it just every year I'm so genuinely blown away by the work that everyone in the community is doing, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in some more detail as we get started. But I wanted to start off, so I want to introduce myself. So many of you are new to the conference. My name is Joel Barciauskas. That's CI, but it's C with a missing accent. So I'm the manager of the Open edX team here at edX. There's my email address and Twitter, so feel free to reach out to me however works best for you. I'm active on all of those, and I'm available to you for anything that you'd like to know about the community, about things that you're working on, how we can help you. I want to spend a few minutes just acknowledging some of the people who have helped make this conference possible. Every year we have an amazing selection of sponsors without whom we would not be able to put this on every year. So first of all, Microsoft, I'd like to thank them. They are our sponsor for the reception tonight, so we have a reception from 5 to 6:30. So that will be in a courtyard. There will be people directing you towards there, but don't miss that. That will be a really great opportunity to have those one-on-one conversations and network and connect with other members of the community in sort of a more casual setting. I'd also like to thank Examity. So we'd welcome them. This is their first time sponsoring the conference. Microsoft had sponsored, this is their second time, so Examity is new to the community, and we are really excited to have them join, and we're really grateful for their sponsorship, and they're our lunch sponsor. We'd also like to thank Proversity. This is their first time sponsoring, and so we welcome them as a sponsor. And AppSembler, also a Keystone sponsor, and we really appreciate their continued support. This is the third year that they've sponsored the Open edX conference, so we really appreciate their commitment to the community. So premier sponsors, Abstract Technologies, they were with us at Stanford as well, and Extension Engine. So you may not know this, you may have heard the name Extension Engine in the community, but they actually were the very first sponsors of the first Open edX conference in 2014. So they really have a strong commitment to the community. So thank you. So with that, these sponsors are all have tables outside in the reception registration area. Please stop by, say hi, thank them for their support of the community. They really appreciate that. Contributing sponsors, IBL Education, Raccoon Gang, and Arbisoft, thank you to them as well. And to our media partner, Opino, and EduStack is a friend of Open edX sponsor as well. And of course, this incredible venue and this incredible city are all made possible by our gracious hosts, UC3M. I want to thank Dr. Carlos Cluse, who I said had this vision of a week-long online learning extravaganza. And so he really followed through with that and created this wonderful week-long event. So I'd like to give him a huge round of applause, as well as everyone from UC3M. Raul and Rosa are too shy to stand up and wave, but they're down here in the front row. I can see them. So as you may have seen, we have our conference hashtag on Twitter is OpenEdX 2017. We have a Slack team. Many of you are likely already in there, but if you are not, you can go to this bit.ly URL to join. It's bit.ly/openedx.slack. There's a room there for discussing the conference. You can continue conversations if you start them and you want to follow up with people. That might be a good place to find them. And then we invite you to create sub-rooms as well, OpenEdX 2017-dinner-AWS-whatever thing that you're interested in, and find other people to connect with virtually that way throughout the conference as well. So a couple more housekeeping notes. So all of the plenary sessions will be here. We have a great talk from Vincent Zimmer coming up this afternoon at 4:15 from Chiron. And then we will be hearing from Nick Van Dam tomorrow morning from McKinsey. He's the global CLO, and we're very honored to have him as well. We have 3 different rooms for breakouts. There's this Lon de Grados D03 and E06. There's signs to those, and there will be staff with pink badges to help direct you through the conference. And on your conference tag, there's also a number. It should be 1 or 2. If you have a number 1, the cafeteria on the ground floor. If you have a number 2, please use the cafeteria on the upper floor. No one's going to be checking, so we just ask you to follow these guidelines. Certainly, if there's someone you want to have lunch with that has a different badge number, just do what works best for you. So with that, we're going to launch into the State of OpenEdX talk. So this is just a review of the past year and a short vision into the future of OpenEdX and the platform. We're going to start with an update from our CTO, edX's CTO, Mark Haseltine. He'll introduce our VP of Product, Iain Kennedy, and then we will review some updates and share some great news about product, technology, and community. So with that, I'd like to welcome our CTO, Mark Haseltine.
Thank you, Joel. So I'm really excited to be here. This is my 3rd OpenEdX conference, and I know we say this every time, but it gets better every year. This is by far the best we've ever seen. So it's a tremendous amount of work for a lot of people. So thank you to everyone who helped put it together. And it's really exciting to be here in Madrid. I attended the eMOOCs conference. Whoever had that vision to put them together, that was genius. The main point of this entire talk is to get to more of the product features that we've added over the past year and what's coming, but I wanted to kind of set the groundwork for that discussion, particularly for those of you who have been to OpenEdX before, because we've made some changes to the product and engineering team that are going to be reflected in these talks. So back in January, we realigned the product and engineering organization around our main customer constituents. So we have a learner team that you're going to hear from that is primarily focused on our edX learners. We have an educator team focused on educators, people that put the courses on our platform, and a business team that's focused around business enterprises and how they manage their employees that are taking courses on the edX platform. Main purpose behind that reorg is to really make sure that we have a team that owns the end-to-end customer experience. What we were seeing was some gaps in ownership. We wanted to make it really clear so that every type of constituent that uses our platform has an owner all the way through. At the same time, we also reorganized our core functions. So our operations team, our tools team, and platform team are now grouped under a single organization called Core. And we have representatives from the core team here as well. Their primary customer is the developer, so both the internal edX developer and the OpenEdX developer. So as you know, most of the tools they develop are available to the community and will continue to be new. We had a lot of growth in the past year, about 25 new employees, and that's actually in engineering alone. That's not edX-wide, and it doesn't include product. And we have a really strong product management organization that you're going to hear from today. And so at least from my perspective, we're running on full cylinders, and I'm excited about all the things that we're going to be able to accomplish in the next year. So that said, we have a fairly large contingent here, so I wanted to just take a moment and introduce them. So they traveled all this way. They're here for your benefit, so please, ask them questions. Don't be afraid to take up their time. That's what they're here for. So edX employees, when I call out your name, can you just raise your hand so people can see who you are? So from our learner team, we've got the product manager, Marco, over there. Jasper, Jasper here. And Bill DeRusha from engineering. From the Educator team, we have Shelby Stack and Namisha, who's up there in the back. From our business team, Brittany, right there. We have a bunch of Ed Services employees here as well. So Clayton with the camera, who's in the front row. Ben for our training. Audra and Audra's up in the back as well. And Laura, also up in the back. And from our core team, Finiel from DevOps, down here in the front. Brian Wilson from our analytics team. Way up in the back. Way up in the back. Ari, front-end development. Liz from UX here in the front. And Mark Sadecki, who is our accessibility expert, who's also up in the back. So again, please seek them out, ask them questions. They'll be actually giving talks throughout the next 2 days. So they're absolutely here to engage with the community and want to support your efforts. And I also want to thank our OpenEdX team. So they do a lot of work to make this conference happen. So just a quick shout out to them. So Joel, who you've already met, Ned, who's right here, George, George is up in the back, Aaron, I think might be down in front, Vi and Roberta, who I think they're all manning the front desk. And just a plea, I know you're going to get a lot of requests for feedback. We put on these conferences once a year. We're entirely dependent on your feedback to make them better. So please don't be shy. Tell us what you think. We rely on your support to make it happen. So with that, I want to introduce our VP of Product, Iain Kennedy, who joined last September. So Ian's background, he spent quite a bit of time at American Express, at Google, at Microsoft and Amazon. He has a teaching background, so he's very passionate about education and has already had a pretty big impact on how we do product management at edX, so we're very fortunate to have him. So with that, I will introduce Iain.
Hello, everybody. Quick show of hands, how many of you were in Paris for a global forum? Okay, just a few. I just want to reassure you, I did half that presentation in French. I will not be doing this in Spanish. I do not know any Spanish, not yet at least. So let's see. Going the wrong direction. So a little bit of background. Anand put a thought in my head as he's talking about how we're going to see careers and jobs evolve significantly over the next 10, 13, 15 years. I have a confession to make, which is that when I was a kid growing up in Scotland, I did not have as an ambition to be a product manager. I had no concept of what a product manager was at that time. I'm not even sure that the role was particularly well defined. What I did want to be at that point was Indiana Jones. And so what brought me to the States actually was to study a PhD program at Columbia in New York City in medieval history. How then do you get from medieval history to VP of Product at an educational technology company? Well, one of the fascinating things about medieval history is that there are, given the time difference, we're talking 1,000 years ago, enormous gaps in the information we have available. And so medievalists have become very sophisticated in using digital technology to figure out and close those gaps. If you can imagine, if you're a student or a researcher in modern history, you have more data than you can handle, and you may be using technology to handle the sheer amount of data. Medieval technology, medieval history, you have huge gaps. And that, in fact, in my view, is a lot like product management. We're trying to make good decisions without all of the information, without all of the knowledge that we need. And so we're trying to learn as much as we can, but we're also trying not to wait until we know everything to make decisions and move forward. So what I want to talk about just in a few minutes before I introduce some folks from my team to go into details of product roadmap is a little bit about our product vision and a little bit about how we think about product, what our role is, and how we prioritize what we're going to work on next. So first of all, I've got up on the slide the product vision for edX. I know most of you are, I'm sure, very familiar with edX's organizational vision, but our product vision is to create the world's leading learning destination site and platform. Now, there are some parts of that as a historian, I have to parse it, right, because it's text. There are parts of it that I parse and it makes sense. Obviously, the world's leading, well, you know, we're a very global organization. This room is evidence of that. The learning piece, fairly straightforward. The part that I think is a challenge for us to figure out maybe is leading. What do we mean by leading? We could talk about, are we leading edge on technology? Do we have the most learners? Do we have the most partners? What it doesn't mean to me to be leading is that we're competing and comparing ourselves directly constantly with other folks who play in this space. Because when we're doing that, when we're watching what other companies in this space are doing, we're taking our eye off our customer. And as Mark said, we've reorganized ourselves to be extraordinarily focused on our customer, to make sure that that's what we're looking for in terms of our guiding light about what to do and maybe what not to do. We are, as an organization, very different from the other companies who play in this space. We're nonprofit and we're open source, and that leads us to make decisions maybe slightly differently from how some of the other companies that have been mentioned already in the room might approach solving these customer problems. So what's our approach to product? First of all, it's focus on the important stuff and identify and not do the not important stuff. That's basically what product is about. It's about putting our resources on the most important things and then in the right order, which sounds really easy, right? Just don't do the stuff that doesn't matter. Well, let's think about a little bit the process that goes into figuring out what does and what doesn't matter. First of all, the place we start is the customer, and then we work backwards from there. So we're looking at our customer, we're trying to understand and empathize with their needs, and we're looking for problems. We're looking for problems that we can solve. But it's not just any problem. Obviously, our customers, in terms of learning, have many problems that we could address. We're looking for problems that if we solve them, the customer will care, and they'll care enough to change their behavior and use our product. So we've got a problem for the customer. It's a real problem that someone will care about if we solve it. Then we're trying to figure out what the perfect solution would look like. And only then do we say, okay, are we the right organization to solve that problem? And so we have a couple of lenses that we look at in making that decision. The first is balance. We don't want to be purely focused on driving business metrics. Business metrics obviously are very important to us. We want to be a self-sustaining organization, but we need some balance. And so we're looking at solving problems that will drive our business metrics, but also solving problems that our customers come to us with, whether that's members of the open source community, whether it's our educational institution partners, enterprise partners, or learners. We're also looking for opportunities to delight them, to solve problems that maybe they weren't even aware that they had. And then finally, we're looking to make investments for the future, so we're not just thinking as, say, a for-profit organization might at the next quarter or even the next year. So that's balance. The other side is focus. Once we've decided that there are certain things that we should do, that we need to be really good at, we need to focus on those in different ways, given that we have limited resources. So there are some things that we know we need to be good at, and we think we're already pretty good at, but we want to continue to enhance them. Those would be things like assessments and integrity. We've got some great features there. We're strong in those areas. We have to be because, as Anant said, we're a credit-focused organization, but we need to continue to build on those capabilities. Then we have a group that we bucket as investments, and these are areas that we've identified as being extremely important, but areas where we don't think we're particularly strong today. And you'll hear about some of those from the team in the next half hour, 45 minutes or so. Dynamic pacing is one area. Engaging our learners in our self-paced courses. That's an area that we're really going to invest in the next 12 months. And then finally, experiments. There are a lot of things that are out there in the space that sound interesting, that could be huge breakthroughs, but we don't know yet. And so we want to experiment, we want to dip our toes, gather data, and figure out if they can make a difference to our partners or our learners, then we'll move them up into the invest area. So an example of that would be content tagging, where we want to figure out if that's, through enabling more adaptive learning on the platform, an area where we can really make a meaningful difference to learner outcomes. And if it is, it'll move into that investment space. So that's a little bit about how we approach product management, how we think about coordinating what we're working on and how. Obviously, I'm sure you're eager to hear more of the details about what we've already bucketed into those areas and what we're prioritizing in the next year. And so with that, I'm going to hand you over to Marco Morales, who's going to talk about the learner team and what they're up to over the next year or so. Marco?
Hi, everyone. So Marco Morales, I'm here as a representative from the product team for the Learner Group. So just a little bit about the Learner Group. So the Learner Group focuses on everything that happens leading up to a learner identifying, landing on, for example, edX.org, through the course discovery process, the registration and enrollment process, through the sort of dashboards for courses and programs that they experience, and then the actual core course and program experience as well. So it's kind of the end-to-end cycle for a learner, even including sort of for those learners that commit to a verified certificate, the payment and checkout process. So kind of an end-to-end experience, sort of making sure that we don't drop any part of the life cycle. So that's our team's focus. Before talking about the specifics of what the learner team is doing, I want to take a quick second to talk about edX's named releases. So the named releases, as you may or may not know, is the primary way that we help the community keep track of sort of the weekly changes or sometimes daily changes that we actually have as part of edX, and make sure that it's easy for you to move from version to version. So in a little bit more detail, Eucalyptus was the named release that went out in July of 2016, and the current active release is Ficus, which goes from that point in time through early January 2017. So we're going to spend a little bit of time covering what Ficus is, but just a really quick overview. So there's a lot more details available online about all the sort of things that were included in that time period, but we do at least want to give a snapshot of some of the highlights. We'll spend most of our time talking through the next release, Ginkgo, so from January through about July, and then Hawthorne, which is, again, from about July and moving forward. So that's kind of the rough sort of arc of what we're going to talk about today. So let's dive into Ficus. So overview for Ficus, we're going to, again, talk about sort of a smattering of different features. So one of the things that we've enabled for learners is the ability to see their order history and account settings. So for learners that had sort of course payments in any way, it was really hard for you to identify what you'd paid, what the receipts were, how do I get sort of clarity into that. So we've added that to the account settings. For any OpenEdX instances that run multiple sites within one instance, right, so multi-site instances, there's now site-specific catalogs. So catalogs is the service that helps us organize and understand what it is that's available for learners to enroll in, whether that's a course or a program. We've also invested in improvements to the discussion forums on usability and performance. So in particular, that sort of is a big change to the inline discussion experience to help make it more in line with what you could do on the main discussion app, but also a lot of other performance improvements to make sure that even in large courses, learners get to the discussions they want quickly. In terms of data and exposing that data to course instructors, we've added an initial version of per learner insights. So even though at MOOC scale you have thousands of people interacting with different elements, it's also helpful to be able to identify individuals. So looking at an individual sort of behavior or pattern or experience in a course is important, so we have an initial version of that. More on the learner side, one of the things we've sort of updated is auto detection of your time zone so that you can properly render due dates for assignments and deadlines in your own local time zone or your specified time zone. So that's another improvement that we've added recently in Ficus. One of the big changes in Ficus is the Kappa problem experience. So multiple choice, text input, all the sort of core problem types that make up the bulk of edX courses in terms of assessments. So a big effort to make sure those problems are accessible, to make sure learners understand what's going on in the problem, what's graded, what's not graded, whether or not they've submitted a problem, how many attempts they have, clear sort of visibility into all those extra features that are packed into Kappa, partial credit, help, feedback, ability to save your answer and see hints. So all those things were sort of a big investment for us in Ficus. Shifting lastly to the authoring experience, so one of the things we've landed in Ficus is the ability to duplicate content. So we've had duplication at the component level, so you can duplicate a video, for example. We can now let instructors duplicate kind of templates at the section, subsection, or unit level, so a lot more, hopefully faster authoring times for instructors. Similarly, one of the more popular and common X blocks is the drag and drop block. It makes up a big fraction of the sort of courses that we see on edX.org. And with the help of OpenCraft, we actually saw a pretty big jump forward for that, allowing authors to actually not have to use XML to author that problem block, which is a pretty big jump for us, but also making sure that that problem type was accessible and mobile friendly. So, quick overview of Ficus. And next up, we'll talk about Ginkgo. So again, these are the things we're working on now and hoping to include in Ginkgo. So the 4 themes we'll talk about are commerce capabilities, the course landing experience, our catalog and credential services, credentials being sort of like our certificates, and then our effort to expand support for programs, which is sort of multiple courses at once. Great. So let's dive into programs first. So the catalog service is, as I mentioned briefly earlier, sort of what helps organize the hierarchy of what's available for learners to enroll in and consume on the platform. So that service is now powering new applications. So with Ginkgo, you'll have a new program dashboard that lists out all the programs you're actively working towards, what the status of that program is, so what courses you're enrolled in, what courses you're not yet enrolled in, which ones you've completed. And as part of that, you can also dive into an individual program and get greater visibility into the certificates you've earned so far, what runs you might need to still enroll in, and other sort of details, whether or not you've upgraded to the correct track, to the verified track in edX.org's case. So that's sort of one of the big themes of Ginkgo for us is programs. Sorry. Next up to talk about in a little bit more detail is mobile. So what are the changes that Ginkgo has for mobile? So a lot of these have to do with ensuring that we respond to some of the feedback we've gotten on the ratings and better understand how people are consuming the mobile app. So right up at the top is the ability for our mobile apps to configure when you want to show or ask learners if they have any feedback. So you can ask learners to see how they're doing, see if they're interested in helping rate the site and review the mobile app, but also get some feedback from them if they do have concerns or issues with their experience. Another thing we've sort of updated is the ability to see all courses on mobile. Previously, only mobile-friendly courses were available on mobile, but now we let videos that aren't mobile-friendly tell you, hey, you can't watch these on mobile yet, but the rest of the course experience, the discussion forums, the announcements, the outline, those are available, even if not all the content is yet mobile-friendly. Another big effort for us is making progress towards having a localized app for both iOS and Android. So this would mean that Spanish language learners, for example, would be able to see the application in their language when they open up the app. One of the other big features to talk about here is clickable video transcript. So this is a feature that we've had on the web from early days of edX, but now learners, even on the mobile app, can jump ahead and really sort of determine what parts of the video are really specific or salient for their learning needs. A number of other improvements to videos and messaging are also sort of a part of the work we did in Ginkgo. Great. So the next big theme for us is the course experience. So why does this matter? So what we found is that learners really need to understand what is in the course, is it for me, and what do I need to do to complete it? Within the first couple minutes of them interacting and engaging with the course. That's when they decide whether they want to make the learning commitment, whether it's a fit or not for them. So one of the efforts that we've sort of done here is reimagine the sort of course outline and home experience and begin to deliver incremental improvements to that experience so that when learners land in a course, they have the right information available to answer those questions we just talked about. So behind the scenes, this is powered by an architectural change called Web Fragments, which we hope will help facilitate more modular and sort of quick customization of the LMS experience for open edX partners in particular that want to sort of make some sort of deep customizations to that experience. In addition to the core course landing experience, we've also made improvements in other parts of the sort of broader experience for language awareness. So the login and registration page now are aware of your browser language so that we can show you the language, login and registration page, in Spanish, for example. So even if you're not yet someone who has an account who's told us what language you would like, we can actually still show you that experience correctly. The other thing is that your certificates, so the end of the course experience is also something now that we're making language aware. So you'll be able to see and read what it means to have received this certificate, this MicroMaster certificate or course certificate in Spanish, for example. Onto this, one other thing I missed is onto this sort of new course home experience and outline, that's where we begin to sort of build in basic progress and sort of more motivators that we'll talk about a little bit for what's next. Quick talk on commerce, catalog, and credentials. So a lot of what powers the ability to enroll in things, the ability to get certificates, and the ability to sort of upgrade. So a big emphasis on coupon and enrollment codes for anyone who wants to drive or use additional incentives to get learners directly into a course for free, or use discounts to get people to enroll into the course as well. The checkout flow is now also responsive, so if you're looking at paying on the mobile web, for example, you can now do so as part of Ginkgo, and some additional usability improvements to really make that more streamlined experience were also a part of this work. Similarly, you can see the theme. This page is now language aware, so you can also have a checkout experience in Spanish again. So just the last quick bit here is on the learner team, what are we looking at next? So what does the world look like from July onward? So super high level description here, but the themes we're looking at, we'll start first with payments and program bundling. So we're looking to integrate with some integration points for payment providers so that we have more flexibility for any sort of open edX partners in particular that want to test or explore different payment providers. And then program bundling is another thing we're looking at. So for learners who are interested in making a commitment in this multi-course world, like the MicroMasters or the professional certificates, the ability to sort of pay all at once, potentially with a discount, is something that we're looking at as part of this sort of program bundling effort. So next, moving into the learner experience, we've talked a little bit about how we're currently working on making sure those basic questions are answered for a learner when they land in the course. The next questions within that set are, what am I doing and what do I need to complete? So understanding a learner's goals and their motivation and also helping visualize their progress towards those goals are important to ensure that we retain learners in courses, especially when it's easy to have life get in the way. So that's another important theme for us next. Course dates and the course lifecycle. So there are a number of dates that you need to configure as instructors and platform operators to ensure that the proper things are rendering at the proper time for students. So we're putting some effort into making sure that the experience configuring and authoring those dates is as simple as we can make it, to make sure that we minimize the number of misconfiguration issues and challenges around any course dates. So the last thing here is sort of a bundled kind of theme. So we know that engaging with content is important to getting learners to complete courses, but we also want to make sure we consider engagement with their own learning goals and direction, as well as engagement in sort of a community of learners and sort of the social engagement piece. So one of the other things we're going to be looking at past in Hawthorne and beyond is what kinds of investments can we make or experiments can we have in the sort of learner identity and the learner community space. So we're around to answer any more detailed questions you may have, but for now I will hand it over to Shelby that will talk to you about the Educator experience.
Hi there, I'm Shelby Stack. I'm a product manager on the Educator team, and the Educator team is very focused on the end-to-end experience of our course teams and partners who are creating and building courses and programs on our platform. So over the past 6 months, what we're currently working on right now can be summarized by these 4 main themes. video, grading and integrity, insights, and authoring or authoring efficiency. So let's start off with grading. So as an educational platform, grading is absolutely crucial. Grading previously was computed on the fly. So what that means is that, for example, if a learner accessed her progress page, her grade would be recomputed in that moment. So as you might imagine, that could sometimes, very occasionally, lead to unintended changes in your grades over time. So what we do now is we have a very robust grading infrastructure where we save grades at key points in time. So for example, when a learner presses submit or when a course team decides to rescore a problem. This makes our grades far more reliable, far more performant, and also allows us to build out different features and functionality that could consume grading information. So you can imagine transcripts, visualizing course progress, etc. Relatedly, partners such as OpenCraft and MIT have recently contributed integrity features, which are also very important for our high-stakes courses and MicroMasters programs. So the screenshot here is an example of that. So for truly summative assessments, you're able to suppress the results and feedback until the due date or the course end date passes. Related to proctoring, we've also invested in this quite a bit over the past 6 months. We have quite a bit of performance gains as well as usability improvements for the learners. Switching now to the authoring efficiency standpoint, we have three major themes. Related to video, the video workflow to date has been both manual and a little burdensome due to our reliability on YouTube. So as a first step in being able to automate that video workflow and improve the viewing experience for our learners, we've added HLS, which is adaptive streaming playback capability to the Amazon hosted videos, so that's added to both our pipeline as well as to our player. Building off of the duplicate capabilities in Ficus, you can now move content in Studio, which is very exciting. So for example, if you were creating a survey and you wanted to have it in multiple places within your course, you can easily duplicate it and just move it. So we're very much looking forward to, in the future, being able to extend this functionality to different sections in your course as well as across courses. A much smaller project, but I think will be very impactful, is we'll soon be automating certificate generation. About 5% of our student support inquiries are around, where is my certificate? I think we'll be able to solve that problem by twofold. One, automating the certificate generation, as well as surfacing that information to learners as to when they can expect to receive their certificates. So beyond CAPA, multiple choice, Aura, or open response assessment, is by far our most popular assignment type. Credo recently contributed major enhancements to this problem type, including an instructor overview in your course, so you can see the summary statistics for each assignment. It also includes a very streamlined staff grading workflow, so huge improvements there, as well as improvements to the learner experience, so clearer instructions and improvements around being able to upload files. Switching to insights, you can now see the summary statistics for all of your courses that you're enrolled in, and you can filter and search. So for example, if I wanted to analyze my self-paced archive courses, I can now easily do so. And then shortly in the future, we'll be surfacing the grading information and insights as well. So we have quite a few different initiatives that are in discovery right now. So if any of these are of interest to you, please find me after. So we'll be continuing our video work. So we've just added the adaptive streaming capabilities. We're now just starting discovery on creating a video X block that's both scalable, performant, and easy to use. We're also starting discovery soon on creating, or taking our video pipeline, or transcoding and encoding, and making that open source. Related to discussions, it is by far the #1 request we've received from course teams and partners. We're currently looking into the gaps of our discussion forum that remain, and we're particularly interested in different third-party integrations that could help in that area. Related to learner engagement, the Educator team is very much focused in on the self-paced experience. While self-paced provides learners with key flexibility, we do sometimes see lower engagement So the educator team right now is focused on 2 initiatives within that theme. The first one being targeted learner communications. So you can imagine emails based on enrolling, welcome, or different course milestones. The second initiative within that theme is dynamic pacing, or suggested dates. So you can imagine a schedule might help a learner along through the self-paced course. The final theme I wanted to mention was accessibility. That's going to be a major focus for the educator team over the next 12 months or so. So we'll be working to improve the accessibility for all of our educator tools and products, including Studio, the instructor dashboard, et cetera. So that's it on the educator standpoint, but please let me know if you have any questions in the future. And with that, I'll hand it over to Joel.
Awesome. Wow. You can just see sort of how much the entire team at edX and the community has been working on, and what we've been accomplishing in the last year is just incredible. So let's get a big round of applause for our engineering team, for you as a community. I can't wait to see what comes up next. So I'm going to touch briefly just on some technology details and the technology roadmap. So a big accomplishment in the past year was our operating system upgrade, upgrading Ubuntu so we can make sure that we're always on the most recent and secure version of Ubuntu. We have spent a lot of time in the past year researching and investigating how to approach a front-end modernization effort. We understand that front-end development in Studio and LMS is a challenge at this point. We want to make achieving accessibility goals easier, as well as a number of other objectives. Actually, our team member from our front-end development team, Ari Rizzitano, will be speaking on this in a breakout session, so I highly recommend going to see that talk, have conversations with her there and throughout the conference. Lastly, at last year's Open edX conference in Stanford, we rolled out the Open edX proposal process. This was our technology decision-making framework that we think is a really big step forward in opening up the decision-making process, getting more feedback from you and the community, and trying to make the best overall technology decisions possible. This is really important, and this is a really important interaction for us with the community to get your feedback, to make sure that we're making the right technology decisions for both ourselves and for you. We've seen a huge success with that. We've had 12 of these published in the past year. There's 4 in progress. You can see there's a link here to, you can see the currently published ones. There's also a Slack channel where you can find discussions, as well as you can find them on GitHub. So what's next from a technology standpoint? So I mentioned the front-end modernization effort, so we're moving ahead with React front-end components and Bootstrap 4. This will be something that we're looking at adding incrementally. We are also looking at container-based developer environments. So we had some people trying this out yesterday at our tutorials, and we're excited about this as a first step towards exploring using container-based technology for more parts of our deployments. The Django 1.11 upgrade, like the operating system upgrade, this is, of course, critical for staying on top of security patches. And that's something that we've committed to achieving by the Hawthorne release. And then the updated core platform architecture, this is a lot of conversations around LMS and Studio and the future of the edX platform as a whole. Our edX architect, Nimisha Astagiri, will be talking about that here in a breakout session as well. So if that's a topic that's of interest to you, definitely go to that talk and find Nimisha and give her your feedback. Great. So that was just a little background on the technology. We talked about product, and I promised that we would talk about community. As we see here, just looking around the room, there's been incredible growth in the community, and I wanted to share what we've seen. And of course, I want to continue to hear from you more about what you're seeing, what you're doing in the community. So we have counted over 800 open edX sites. That's sites that are offering courses based on the open edX platform, which is just incredible, and over 5,000 courses. So this is really a huge step forward. We're just continuing to see the reach of the platform grow, see more and more people adopt it, and see it become easier for people to adopt, both based on improvements from an engineering perspective, but also from innovations from the community in terms of SaaS offerings and things like that. So every year this happens, so Anant always speaks before I do. So he gets to put this number on his slides, and I can't stop him. So this is, I just wanted to repeat this because it is incredible, right? So 22 million learners. This is what the impact of those 800 plus sites is, right? These real, actual learners learning things on the open edX platform, this incredible platform that you all are helping build and deploy and put out that content. Based on solid research and pedagogy. So this is a huge accomplishment, and we know that that billion learner goal that Anant put out there is not achievable without you all and your efforts in the community. So looking a little bit closer at some of those sites, how are we achieving these numbers? The different kinds of ways in which the platform is being used continues to amaze us. So if you go to Class Central, and there's like classcentral.com/providers or whatever it is, there's 39 providers there where they have different course reviews. So this is MOOC sites and that sort of thing. 9 of the 39 sites on Class Central are based on open edX. That's incredible, right? I mean, that's like, that just blows my mind. When I went through and saw that list, I was like, all of these sites are using open edX. National platforms. So Anant touched on this also, and we see this as a real critical way of driving the impact of the platform, is working closely with national governments who are offering education to their citizens. We think that this is just an amazing way to offer MOOC scale, massive open online education. It's just working through these governments, and we're really interested in working in concrete ways with governments who are doing this work or are considering it. So that's really a thing that we see as a key driver of adoption and of extending the reach of the platform and extending its impact. So those are some big numbers and big impacts, but those big impacts are enabled by individuals and individual organizations that are contributing to the community in a number of different ways. So one person who I'd like to recognize, who was a key figure in helping us with our Ficus release testing, which is, every time we put out a release, we need feedback from you in the community to understand, is this release of the right quality? Is this have the right tools and upgrade path and things? And so we're always looking for that feedback. Pierre was super helpful in that process. And he's also super active on our Slack channel, particularly our ops channel, where people are really talking about deployment issues and release upgrades and things like that. And then from an organizational standpoint, we have to acknowledge just the incredible contribution from OpenCraft, who had over 70 contributions merged in the last year, and we just continue to be impressed and thankful for their commitment to the community and the platform. So I'd just like to give a quick round of applause for both Pierre and for OpenCraft. Thank you. Of course, there's a huge array of contributions that have been made in the past year. These are some selected ones that I wanted to highlight, but Credo Education, as was mentioned earlier, UBC was mentioned earlier as well, MIT, AppSembler, EdRock, Microsoft, Raccoon Gang, and Proversity, all making significant contributions to the platform in the past year. And more contributing organizations. Again, these are the people that make the community growing and possible and make this platform have that huge impact that we see that it's having now. And of course, I want to thank everyone else who made any kind of contribution, helped someone on Slack, made a translated string, etc. So another big round of applause for all of you who are doing this great work in the community. Thank you. So I wanted to touch briefly on, how can you help the community? How can you help us continue to make this platform have a huge impact and be a success? So, the first thing, of course, is, in displaying that Powered by Open edX logo on your site. That's a huge help to spread the understanding of the brand, as well as help other people learn about the platform and it's, that it's out there for people to use. Linking back to edX.org, so you understand that, of course, there's so many contributions from the community, but a huge amount of effort is put forth by edX as an organization into this platform, and our primary sustainability is driven by edX.org. So anything that you can do as a community member to help learners find out about the great content that we offer on edX.org is hugely appreciated and helps us continue to invest our efforts into the Open edX platform. Sharing your feedback and helping others on Slack and the mailing list, of course. We want the community to be helping each other as much as possible. There are so many ways in which you understand the challenges that each other face in ways that we are not capable of, and we want you to continue to enable and grow yourselves and make the community a really collaborative and self-sustaining organization. So I mentioned translations, documentation. There are so many ways to contribute to the platform that are not writing code. And I don't think we talk about this enough, and I'm probably not talking about it enough right now. There are just so many opportunities to fix a screenshot in the documentation, to add translations. We have tons of translations in TransFX already, and reviewing the translations, things like that, to get that quality up there consistently is a huge help. Conducting experiments and research. So Iain touched on those three levels of sort of product, where we are with different parts of the product, and experiment is one of them. So we really see the community as a great way of gathering feedback about what sorts of things are really being effective, and we want to enable you to experiment and give us that feedback. And lastly, of course, just share your story with us. We're here. We want to hear about what the great things that you're doing are, what your ideas are for how we can make the platform even better. So please just find any of us and tell us your story. So with that, I think we are going to open it up to questions, and I'm going to invite the speakers up here just so we can cover any questions for anything that's come up in the presentation. We'll just have maybe 2 or 3 questions. Well, I guess, yeah. Here first. Yeah, go.
Oh.
Hi.
Thank you. What are your key product metrics?
Iain, do you want to?
So there are a couple of things that we can go into there. We have measures of the performance of the team as an organization in terms of how we're doing meeting customer needs, and then we have metrics of the product itself and how it's performing. And some of those are more on the business side, and some of those are more on the customer side. We're actually doing some really interesting work just now, really focusing in on the customer side, and that's both on the learner and the educator. We have a business intelligence team that we've really built up in the last year led by Adley Henley. We don't unfortunately have any representation from that team here, but what we're doing is trying to identify in learner behavior what are the critical actions that we want a learner to take in the first hour, day, and week that gives us an indication that we've captured their attention and they're going to stay with us. So at the moment the focus is on within the course, but I can imagine certainly over the next year I'd like to extend that to looking within the platform at the learner level. Just to give you very specifics on learner engagement, what we're looking at is within the first 7 days, how many days of engagement do we get from a learner within the course? And what we're seeing is very high statistical correlation with 2 days of learner engagement within the first 7 correlates extremely highly with continued success through the course all the way through to completion, and also with verification to the paid track.
Awesome, thank you. Over here.
Thanks for a wonderful group presentation. I'm Rainer Sauerborn from Heidelberg University in Germany. You mentioned the portability of the edX platform to smartphones. Now, I work a lot in rural India and rural Africa, and what is a smartphone? What's the hardware requirement? Somebody mentioned 500 million smartphone users in India. I don't think that these 500 million can run the edX, have the requirement of memory and so forth. So what is the hardware requirement, and what's the penetration of this type of hardware in those countries that we tend to not reach? Thank you.
Yep, it's a great question. So I hope I don't misquote this. I'll double check right after this, but I believe we support everything after Android 4.2. So Android's currently on about 7, and the iOS release, or the operating system version, I forget. But it's true that there's a lot of work we can do to improve sort of the speed and performance and usability of the mobile apps. So we didn't specifically talk about mobile apps as a theme for what we're doing next in the presentation, but we can follow up and sort of describe that in more detail if people are interested. But at a high level, we know that we can make investments in both exposing programs on mobile, but also ensuring that the performance of those pages, those web views that render the content, the HTML, like the core course, that those can be sort of much more quickly delivered to learners, or that they could be available in some form offline.
How many people do have these kind of devices that could use edX in India, let's say?
So we know that mobile usage is a lot higher, especially in the sort of more rural environments that you described. I don't have necessarily like the geographic breakdowns by country for that, or sort of how it compares for edX, but we do see similar patterns sort of at a high level where, you know, about a third of our traffic actually is coming from a mobile device or a tablet. So that is sort of what we're seeing right now.
Last question.
Joel, I believe it was you who mentioned on the front-end side a focus going forward on Bootstrap 4 and React.
Yes.
What does that mean in relation to the prior efforts on the UX pattern library?
Right, so the same team that is working on that has been involved in that effort. I don't think there's anyone up on the stage right now that's a expert on that topic, but I would highly encourage you to go see Ari's talk and talk to her about that. So with that, we're going to finish up here. It is lunchtime, so I invite you all to check your badges and find the ground floor or the upper floor cafeteria and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.